All right. You have been asked to decouple an application by utilizing SQS. The application dictates that messages on the queue can be delivered more than once, but must be delivered in the order that they are arrived. And also must allow for efficient repeating polling of the queue. Which of the following options are more suitable? Repeated polling of the queue. Must allow for efficient repeated polling of the queue. I don't know which one this might be. I think it might be the... You work for a construction company that has their production environment in AWS. The production environment consists of 3 identical web servers that are launched from a standard Amazon Linux AMI using auto-scaling. The web servers are launched into the same public subnet and belong to the same security group. Ooh, not awake. Production environment consists of 3 identical web servers that are launched from a standard AMI using auto-scaling. The web servers are launched in the same public subnet and belong to the same security group. They also sit behind the same ELB. You decide to do some testing, you launch the 4th EC2 instance in the same subnet and the same security group. Annoyingly, your 4th instance does not appear to have internet connectivity. What could be the cause of this? You have not configured a route table IP address in the host OS of the 4th instance.
Everything I gonna make sense soon. Get a band-aid and put it over the wound. Tell them yellow moon. Well. No man don't perfect. No, we have our vices and our flaws. They want me to stumble. I go so hard, I take no pause. Even if I fumble, don't laugh just yet. Young boss in charge. Man born fi do this dark. You wanna day of the yard. Now give me that dark. Want it fast.
You have not configured a routable IP address in the host OS of the 4th instance.
Young lad, jump na the aircraft. Push start and it take off. Now give me that dark. Want it fast. Pistol na my waist, better give me when me ask. Now give me that dark. Young boss. Hey.
Okay, don't get too hungry. Good.
I feel the puff your tree, get a fucking room for all weekend. Saying I like me, ignore me then. But I gun shot before me blend. But I mug shot before me tell. Can't catch bad man, no intel. No. Friend them and kill them, roll with them. Can't style man like we don't delete them. Press pan the chicken then go and leave them. Bad for money, no I eat men. Top man up your top lie, cause the system of premium, you free them. Then at the coop, the roof open. You want more proofs that you chosen. 23 with a mansion, panel motivation for the youth them. Do what me you want, that don't lie. Tell them my mind, me not have to be nice. Buy more things and stack up for the fight. I'm gonna do it my way, me not have to be right. Now give me that dark. Me want it fast. Left from my school and straight up me turn a boss. Now give me no talk. Young lad, push, jump na the aircraft. Push start and it take off. Now give me no talk. Me want it fast. Pistol na my waist, better give me when me ask. Now give me no talk. Young boss, rap it. No man don't perfect. No, we have our vices and our flaws. They want me to stumble, I go so hard, I take no pause.
You need to add a route to your routing table that will allow connections to the internet from your subnet. Which of the following routes should you add?
System one sink me, them think I something good. Then I'm selling that type, man, I makes nothing good. Wait till me jump out, wait till me touch road. Yes, about that talk, I make a right, just wait till me go home. blessings and her plans. They want me to stumble, I go so hard, I take no pass. Even if I fumble, don't laugh just yet, young boss in charge. Man born fi do this stuff, you own a day after the yard.
Bye. Don't go overthink that it's a networking question. Don't go overthink them. What's up, Taiga? I'm just trying to see like what this Saturn mask was. But I don't know what 192.168 is. I feel like that is EC2 instances. I don't know what 158 is. Does he even go above fucking 255? That sounds such a flag. Well, now, like, even if you don't know AWS, you can see this one. It says it goes to 258-0. 258, I don't even think is a valid IP. It only goes to 255. That's a bad octet. Octets only go to 255. Yeah. So, and this I don't know what the virtual private gateway, that's wrong. And why would you need to go from this to this? It has to be the target. There's the internet gateway. Anyway, reasoning. You have launched a NAT instance in the public subnet. Like, I don't know all this stuff, but I can make good guesses. You have launched a NAT instance. You know, I need to turn this down. Oof. Oh my god, I need something that's not hip hop. Fuck it. Maybe lower it a bit. There we go. You have launched a NAT instance in a public subnet. You have configured. Dude, I wonder when I get my hair back, dude. Bit chiptunes like lo-fi. Yeah. Dude, actually, I want to test that out. YouTube.com chiptunes. Random chiptune radio. No, dude. This is too upbeat. It's hilarious though. It's gotta be like. Yeah, I definitely don't want to do a. Am I gonna have to play my old fucking dark trap wave mix, something like that? Ghost, there we go. Can't go wrong with this. Alright, back to the problem at hand. I launched a NAT instance in a public subnet, and yeah, and I have to configure all relevant security groups, network ACLs, and routing policies to allow this NAT to function. However, each instance in the private subnet still cannot communicate out to the internet. What troubleshooting steps should you take to resolve this issue? Configure all traffic to go out via a balancer? No, that's inbound. Enable source destination check on that instance? Maybe. Update the Route 53 to allow traffic to flow out from your VPC? That sounds good. Disable the source destination check on your NAT instance. You have launched a NAT instance in the public subnet. Okay, network address translation. You have configured all relevant security groups, network ACLs, and routing policies. So all of it's already done. Why would I have to update another route or DNS to allow traffic to flow out of from your VPC? Add routing policies to allow this NAT to function. Okay. However, EC2 instances in the private subnet still cannot communicate out to the internet. I have a feeling It's one of these. At first I thought it was the update Route 53, which is the DNS service to allow traffic to flow out from the VPC. But it's saying that all my routing policies exist, but then it, I don't know, private subnet still cannot communicate out to the internet. Enable source destination check. You know what? Fuck it. Let's do the Route 53 to allow traffic to flow from your VPC. It might be that one of these needs to be clicked. You launch a NAT instance inside of a public subnet and you've configured all relevant security groups. You got the security groups, the NACLs, and routing policies to allow this NAT to function. So the NAT doesn't know. However, these two instances in the private subnet still cannot communicate out. Well, that's weird because then I don't know. Now I'm doubting myself. Battery low, fuck. Battery low. Yeah. This is not fun, man. This is the practice exam number 2 is giving me a lot of networking questions. But I already wasted like 20 minutes. I'm only on the 4th question. I need to move. Enable source destination check on the NAT instance. Fuck it, just YOLO. You work for a famous bakery who are deploying a hybrid cloud approach. Their legacy IBM blah blah servers will remain on premise with their own data center. However, they will need to be able to communicate to the AWS environment over a site-to-site VPN connection. What do you need to do to establish the VPN connection? Connect to the environment using assign a public IP address in your APSON VPC gateway. Set the ASN. I know that. Create a dedicated NAT and deploy this. Update your route table and how to route for NAT. Holy lord, dude. A site-to-site VPN connection. So usually, you could do these two. You can connect via direct connect. That's a whole setup. Over a site-to-site VPN connection. I mean, at the very least, I think you need a public IP address in the gateway in order to VPN in. Set an ASN. Don't know what that is. Create a dedicated NAT and deploy this to the public subnet. Update your route table to add a route to the NAT. This is so dangerous. Fuck it, let's go. You work for I can't just move on saying you need a public IP address. A hybrid cloud. Alright, I'm just gonna say yeah. No, I can't. No, I don't know how to network. I just don't know. I don't think I should be spending time on the questions. I don't know. You work for a cosmetic company which has their production website on AWS. The site itself is a two-tier configuration with web servers in the front end and database servers in the back end. The site is using Elastic Load Balancer and auto-scaling across their AZs. Dude, I am not taking this exam earlier in the morning. It's not gonna work with me. I need to take it towards the afternoon. The site is using ELB and auto-scaling across 3 AZs. The databases maintain consistency by replicating changes to each other as and when they occur. Okay. This requires the databases to have extremely low latency. Your website needs to be highly redundant. It must be designed so that if one availability zone goes offline, the auto-scaling cannot launch new instances in the remaining availability zones. The site will not go offline. How can the current architecture be enhanced to ensure this? Oh lordy. Woo! Deploy your site to the 3 different AZs with the same region. Configure auto-scaling minimum to handle 50% at the peak load for what? Deploy your website in 2 different regions. Configure Route 53 with a failover routing policy and set up a health checks on the primary site. No. Deploy your site in 3 different AZs with the same region. Configure the auto-scaling minimum to handle 33% of the peak load per zone. So the site will not go offline. Your website needs to be highly redundant and must be designed so that if one zone goes offline, the auto-scaling cannot launch new instances in the remaining availability zones. Okay. Then 33% maybe is minimum to handle. Configure the auto-scaling minimum to handle 33% of the peak load per zone. Deploy websites in 2 different regions. Configure Route 53. Add weighted routing. Assign a weight of 25 to region 1, 75 to region 2. What? No. Deploy your site to 3 different AZs within the same region. Configure auto-scaling minimum to handle 50%. I would just say this. Like, if one goes down, one might take %, yeah. Deploy website in 2 different regions. No. Deploy site to the 3 different AZs. Configure auto-scaling minimum to handle 32%. I think it's this. It's not early. It's not early right now. Like right now it's 1:44, but considering that I woke up at 12 because I went to sleep at 4 a.m. When I did practice exam 1, it was like 10:30 p.m. I feel like the mind is a lot more active. You're a security architect working for a large antivirus company. The production environment has recently been moved to AWS and is in this public subnet. That's why I need like stretch or something. I need to wake the fuck up. You are a security architect working for a large antivirus company. The production environment has recently been moved to AWS and is in the public subnet. Ouch. You are able to view the production environment over HTTP. However, when your consumers try to update their virus definition files over a custom port, that port is blocked. You log into console and allow the traffic from over the custom port. How long will this take to effect? You log into what? Where do you change it? Okay, straight away, but to the new instance only. Immediately after a few minutes, straight away to the new instance, but old instance must be stopped and restarted. I think it's immediately. Not even to new instances, huh? You're able to view the production environment over HTTP. Do I have to restart the instances for security shit to apply? I mean, it sounds right. It sounds like a good security feature that when somebody makes an update to the traffic routing, that the instances need to be restarted. And this kind of makes sense because we had a security group at work. The thing about this is like, I'm actually at work, we made a change to the ability for inbound traffic, and I haven't seen it work. And this would make sense for me in the case that, like, it would make sense that I have to restart to see it to work. And this, like, maybe that's why my shit's not working. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe I actually do have to restart the instance, are immediately dropped. I don't have to restart. Maybe just messed up. This isn't giving me enough info. You can modify rules for a group anytime. The new rules are automatically enforced for all running instances. Then in this case, I think it's immediate and my shit's fucked. Boom. Question A. You have been asked to create a VPC for your company. The VPC must support both internet-facing web apps, i.e. they need to be publicly accessible, and internal private applications. They are not publicly accessible and can be accessed only over the VPN. The internal private applications must be inside a private subnet. Both the internet-facing and private applications must be able to leverage at least 3 availability zones for higher availability. At a minimum, how many subnets must you create within your VPC to achieve this? Honestly, I would just say ouch. 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 I know when you're configuring AWS, sometimes it says you must choose at least 2 subnets for certain things. And because there's two different, like a public and a private subnet, oh, maybe they want like to split that into two additionally, so maybe it'll be 4, but I might be just tripping. You have been asked to create VPC for your company. VPC must support internet-facing web apps and internal private apps. They're not publicly blah blah blah. The internal private apps must be inside a private subnet. Both internet-facing and private apps must be able to leverage at least 3 AZs. Three availability zones. Yeah. In that case, that means you need 6. Done. You work for a genomics industry and you process large amounts of genomic data using a nightly EMR job. The job processes a single 3 terabyte file, which is stored on S3. The EMR job runs on 3 on-demand core nodes and 4 on-demand task nodes. The EMR job is now taking longer than anticipated, and you've been asked to advise how to reduce the completion time. Which of the following would you suggest? You should reduce the input split size. You should reduce the input split size in the map, reduce job configuration, and adjust the number of simultaneous mapper tasks so that more tasks can be processed at once. You still only got 4 tasks. Store the file on elastic file service instead of S3, then mount EFS as independent volume for your core nodes. Okay, configure an independent VPC in which to run the EMR jobs, then mount EFS as independent volume for your core. I like this answer. And I don't know why the hell you would choose a spot instance over an on-demand instance that's going to... It's supposed to be a cheaper alternative, which to me would mean a spot instance is cheaper alternative. I guess EFS is faster than S3. If EFS is faster than S3, then it'll make sense. Reduce the input split size and map reduce job config. And then just the number of some. This wouldn't work because you still maintain 4 task nodes. I was thinking of this. You run an automobile reselling company that has a popular online store on AWS. The application sits behind an autoscaling group and requires new instances of autoscaling group to identify their public and private IP addresses. How can you achieve this? Public and private? You run an automobile reselling company. I don't care about them. The application sits behind autoscaling group and requires new instances of the autoscaling group to identify their public. How do you achieve this? I mean, you can use this in a no. Yeah, it's the metadata thing. With which AWS orchestration service can you implement? Yeah, 3 zones to each. There you go. Damn, I'm fucking way late. With which AWS orchestration service can you implement chef recipes? I didn't know. I'm gonna say it's Beanstack. Might be wrong. I don't fucking remember. Been a little bit. Got pee. Which chef recipes? I don't know what OpsWorks is. I'm gonna say it's Beansstack. You are currently learning about the different AWS services. Your employer asks you to tell them a bit about. This is a weird question. You have been asked to identify a service on AWS that has durable key value store. Which of the services below meets this definition? A key value store? I don't know much about EFS. I'm gonna say S3 at this point because I'm not sure what EFS is. You have been asked to deploy a clustered application on a small number of EC2 instances. The application must be placed across multiple availability zones, have high speed, low latency communication between each of the nodes, and should also minimize the chance of underlying hardware failure. Wow, which of the following options would provide the solution? I don't know what a cluster placement group is, but I did read about placement groups. The application should be deployed as a service in ECS. That'll be nice. The application must be placed across multiple availability zones, have high speed, low latency communication between each of the nodes, should also minimize the chance of underlying hardware failure. I don't know the difference between cluster and placement. Let's just try that. Which of the following is not a feature of AWS organizations? Okay. Granular configuration security groups within the VPC. Hierarchical-based control over groups of IAM users and roles within multiple accounts. AWS accounts which are members of an organization can have the benefit of consolidated billing, maybe, I don't know, grouping of all AWS accounts into OUs. I think hierarchical-based control over groups of IAM users and roles within multiple accounts. Yeah. Amazon Elasticache can fulfill a number of roles. Choose the operations from the following list which can be implemented using Elasticache for Redis. What? Three? I thought Redis was an in-memory database and Elasticache is in-memory too. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just gonna say these three. It doesn't make sense to start talking about sorted sets, I think, for Redis and Elasticache. Which native AWS service will act as a file system mounted on a S3 bucket? Well, maybe that's what Elastic File System is. Act as a file system mounted on S3 bucket and Elastic Block Store. No, I'm gonna say that. What data formats are used for CloudFormation templates? Probably YAML. Oh, probably YAML and maybe JSON. Maybe. Which AWS services allow you to natively run Docker containers? Oh, fuck. 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 What the fuck was the question about Beanstalk that I said? Let you write chef. I'm pretty sure chef. Fuck it. Ops work? Ops work was the chef thing. Okay, and Beanstalk is going to be the other containerized service. What is this? What the fuck is this? Which AWS service allow you to natively run Docker containers? Natively? I don't think EC2 comes with that natively. Can you... I'm gonna have to run on this. But then I have to go back all the way to the Beanstalk question and say it was OpsWorks just because of my new intel. How many internet gateways can I attach to a custom VPC? One. As the AWS platform is PCI DSS level 1 certified, whatever that means, I can immediately deploy a website to it that can take and store credit card details without getting Delta accredited. What? False, my dude. I don't know nothing about that. To add an object to a S3 bucket, the put operation is used. As part of crafting a put, the programmer can add an instruction called request headers. Which of the following are valid request headers? Ignoring these, there's 4 I can select. Boom boom. Boom boom. I don't know AWS storage cloud. Maybe these, all 4. Yeah, I'm gonna try these. DynamoDB has many use cases. Which of the following are legitimate cases? You can store JSON. Yeah, sure, why not? I can choose 3. Highly complex updates. I mean, you could get away with it. Storing archive data that you didn't, I guess you can put in DynamoDB too. You just be stupid. Web session data, I don't know about that. Why would you even try? Why would you want to like access that kind of stuff? Yeah. Which of the following services should you implement in multiple availability zones in order to achieve higher availability? I wish I had Mike Laurent around by now. I don't know if DynamoDB cares about what availability zones. RDS? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go RDS because I don't know RDS. By default, all instances are monitored by CloudWatch. Really? Using the default settings, how many minutes elapse between when metrics are sent to CloudWatch? Using the detailed option, how many minutes would elapse between metrics being sent to... Using the detailed option, how many minutes would elapse between metrics sent? So one should be smaller than higher. But all these are higher than smaller. I'm gonna say it's the smallest one. These metrics. It might be, I don't know. I just don't know yet. You receive a provision throughput exceed exception error. However, the DynamoDB metrics show that your table or index has not been operating at maximum provision throughput. Provision throughput exceed exception error. What could be? Yeah, that is a transitory error. HTTP will adjust the table to accommodate and reprocess. There's only a warning. Yeah, my ass. Throughput is not balanced across your partitions. One partition is being subjected to disproportionate amount of traffic and is therefore exceeding limits. The error is caused by excessive traffic generated by your local secondary. You should know. You should provision units specifically to the locals. I think it's that. You need to restrict access to an S3 bucket. Which of the following methods? With EBS, I can. Enjoyable bowel symptom. I forgot what it was, but I think EBS allows for encryption. Create an unencrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot. Create an encrypted snapshot. Well, create an unencrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot. Create an encrypted snapshot from an unencrypted snapshot by creating an encrypted copy of an unencrypted snapshot. Sure. Maybe encrypt an existing volume. I mean, these two sound logical. Create an unencrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot? Why would we know? Encrypt an existing volume. Probably not. You have been engaged by a company to design and lead the migration to an AWS environment. The CTO and security manager have called you into a confidential meeting. They are concerned that moving to AWS will undermine existing commercial obligations regarding security compliance and reporting. You need to provide them with reliable information they can use to prepare a response to their partners and customers. Which of the following? What? They are concerned moving to AWS will undermine existing commercial obligations regarding security compliance and reporting. Everyone's worried about this. You need to provide them with reliable information. I'll only choose one. Let's try the biggest one. The company should be able to reduce compliance costs as a result of migration. AWS has certification for multiple standards on many services. Consequently, by being selective about the AWS services we use, we can avoid the cost of certification of those services and request a copy of the appropriate certifications from AWS. However, the company is still responsible for all the controls, instances, and applications running on top of those services. The migration team will make every effort to match or improve the current setting. However, an audit before go live will be advisable. Sounds good. The company should be able to reduce their costs. AWS have certification for multiple standards, same shit as before. Consequently, we can avoid the cost of certification of those services and refer to auditors to the AWS certification site. What? Being selective. Just tell them to go to the AWS cert site. However, the company is still responsible for all the controls. Migration team will make every effort to match or improve the current. An audit before go live will be advisable. So the difference in here is you would just say avoid the cost of certs of those services and refer auditors to the AWS certification site. What? Okay. The security positions will be better after migration, as AWS already have certification for multiple standards and other systems as well, all of our services. I think this one's the nicest one because this one just says, hey, we meet it because we use this. But nah, I think you still might have to go through some stuff. Your company likes the idea of storing files on AWS. However, low latency service of the last few days of files is important to customer service. Which storage gateway configuration would you use to achieve? Oh Lord, I can't remember these. Your company likes the idea of storing files on AWS. Which storage gateway configuration would you use to achieve low latency? I don't remember this, but I did this question before. I don't even know if cached is a thing. It should. I don't remember. I have to yellow this one. Even though it might be gateway cached. How long can a message be retained in it? Be retained? 14 days. The risk with spot instances is that you are not guaranteed to use the resource. Yo, what the fuck is this music? Like my fucking. The risk with spot instances is that you are not guaranteed use of the resource for as long as you might want, because it's gonna get shut down. Which of the following are the scenarios under which AWS might execute a forced shutdown? Oh Lord. AWS sends a notification of terminate. Let's say like 4. Sends a notification of termination. You receive it 120 seconds before the intended forced shutdown. AWS sends a notification of termination. You receive it 120 seconds before the forced shutdown, and you delay it by sending a delay 300 instruction. I don't know if you can do that. AWS sends a notification of termination, but you do not receive it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. AWS sends a notification of termination, but you do not receive it within the 120 seconds and then sends the shutdown. Yeah, my ass. Sends a notification of termination. You receive it 126 before the intended forced shutdown, but AWS does not action the shutdown. What? Sent a notification 120 before forced shutdown, but the normal lease expired before the forced shutdown. I don't know about that. AWS sends a notification of termination, and you receive it 120 before the forced shutdown, but you block the shutdown because use termination protection when you initialize the instance. I don't believe that. Which of the following are scenarios under the AWS which AWS might execute a forced shutdown? Send the notification. The normal lease expired? I don't know what that means. But you do not receive it. How is that possible? I'm gonna click it because I'm running out of options. Send notifications termination and does not action the shutdown. I don't believe in these two, so whatever. Next, you are a solutions architect working for a cosmetics company. Wow, that's cool. Your company has a busy Magneto online store. I don't know much about Magneto either. It consists of 2-tier architecture. The web servers are behind an auto-scaling group, and the database is on a large MySQL instance. Your store is having a Black Friday sale at the end of the week and have reviewed the performance for the last sale. You expect the site to start running very slowly during the peak load. You investigate and you determine that the database was struggling to keep up with the number of reads that the store was generating. How can you successfully scale? Well, first off, you can put caching on it and then you can index better. We can migrate the database to a MySQL multi-AZ database. That'll be cool. A read replica. Migrate the database from MySQL to Aurora for better. Update the connection string in Magneto. I don't know what Magneto is, man. What is it? AWS. Magneto and AWS. Magneto is open source content management system, CMS, for e-commerce. Okay. So they got busy WordPress. Okay. Create a read replica. Migrate the database to Aurora. Only 2. Place the RDS instances behind an Elasticache instance and update the connection string, and that would fucking be amazing. A read replica and that. You have a MySQL database running on EC2 instance in a private subnet. You can connect via SSH, but you are unable to apply updates to the database server via NAT. What might you do to remedy this? You're unable to apply updates via the NAT instance. Modify security rules or SSH traffic from anywhere. That's not true. Ensure that source destination check is disabled. Ensure that security group allows HB traffic. Replace the NAT instance. What I might try to do for remedy problem. Allow traffic. I mean, replacing it would be good too. I don't know. Source destination checks. No. I don't know. I'm gonna choose that. Amazon SQS keeps tracks of all tasks and events in an application. Are you fucking kidding me? Your client has been experiencing problems with his aging in-house infrastructure and is extremely concerned about managing the cost of maintaining his online presence. After deciding that the cost of developing a sound DR plan more than makes up damage reduction plan. I don't know what DR plan is. What the fuck is a DR plan? Disaster recovery. Okay. After deciding the cost of developing a sound disaster recovery plan more than makes up for the negative impacts of being offline, the board has directed you to prepare a proposal to achieve a RTO of... What the fuck are these business terms? RTO. Matt TechFac. In disaster recovery situations, 2 essential variables reign supreme: recovery time objective and recovery point objective is the exact age of data that vendors must recover to resume normal operations. So the board has directed you to prepare a proposal that achieves maximum amount of time RTO, recovery time objective, recovery point objective. So I want to get back like my last 1 hour, up to the last hour, and recover before 20 hours. Okay. Whew. And keeps cost of meeting those target time windows to a minimum. They have also mandated the use of the AWS storage gateway to mitigate the risk associated with the catastrophic network access storage failure. Which of the following solutions best meet the requirements? Provide the engineering staff with the AWS account, ask them to rebuild all their servers in AWS to form a fully functional hot standby environment. Use storage gateway to copy the data of NAS to S3 so they can be accessed. Provide the engineering staff with an AWS account. Create a small, undersized disaster recovery DB instance and use application synchronization to keep the DR instance synchronized within 30 seconds of the production. It says build one of each web app server and keep these patched and online. Provide the ops team with scripts and written instructions explaining how to upgrade the DB host to a full-size instance within 20 minutes. Your client has experienced problems with the aging in-house infrastructure. Extremely concerned about managing costs of maintaining his online presence after deciding the cost of developing a sound disaster recovery plan more than makes up for the negative impact of being offline. The board has directed you to prepare a proposal that achieves. So they just want disaster recovery. They don't need all these apps to be online. I've seen scripts will upgrade the DB host to a full-size instance within 20 minutes. It's all good. We don't care about that. That's actually not a bad idea. Provide the engineering staff with AWS account, create a small, undersized DB instance, and use applications to keep the D within 30 seconds. Build one of each web app server. No. Work with the customer's engineers to identify the key servers and data. Help them set up an AWS account with IAM users, groups, and roles. Build templates of the critical web app servers and save these as AMIs. Agree upon RDS specifications and meet the stated requirements. Set up storage gateway and use snapshot schedule to meet the RPO. Document, script, or automate the steps to initiate an RDS instance, the EC2 instances, the steps to restore the latest data from the storage gateway, snapshots RDS, plus any DNS changes. The storage gateway is sounding better and better now. Plus any DNS changes. Test the process with each of the operation team shifts. Wow, that sounds amazing. Provide their engineering staff with AWS account and create IAM users, groups, and roles. Use CloudFormation CloudFormer to clone the existing on-premises environment and store the build scripts in GitHub. Migrate the in-house DNS to Route 53 to simplify cutover. Set up the storage gateway and snapshot schedule meet RPO. Provide the engineering team with CLI script to kickstart the CloudFormation build and restoration of a storage gateway snapshot. That's a little more involved. Now, what do they want you to do? Which of the following solution best meets requirements? Provide their engineering staff with AWS account, create IAM users, groups, and roles. Use CloudFormer to clone existing on-premise environment. That's harder than expect. That's to get it going again. But what's this one doing? AMIs? If you have 20 hours to get everything back up, 1 hour of return, I think that this AMI thing is a little too much. I like this solution a little bit more because you have 20. Oh man, I don't know what I like anymore. Probably just have greatest small, undersized, blah 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 blah. Keep it in sync. Alright, let's see this again. After deciding that the cost of developing a sound disaster recovery plan more than makes up the negative impact of being offline, the board has directed you to prepare a proposal that achieves an RTO of 20 hours, RPO 1 hour, and keeps the cost of meeting those target time windows to a minimum. I'm thinking too hard on this one. Set up the storage gateway and the snapshot schedule. I don't care about that. Document, script, or automate the steps to initiate the RDS instance, the EC2 instance, the steps to restore the latest data from the storage gateway snapshots in the RDS. Plus any DNS changes. Test the process with each of the operations team shifts. This is so comprehensive. Provide their engineering staff with AWS accounts. Work with the customer's engineers to identify key service data. Help set up. God, dude, I'm next. You have a database style application that frequently has multiple reads and writes across the data set. Which of the following AWS storage services are capable of hosting the application? What are you fucking with me? A database style app frequently has multiple reads and writes across the data set. Which of the following? What's good? I select two. Maybe EBS, maybe EFS, I don't know. Reads and writes, block storage. Fuck it, EFS. You need to store some easily replaceable objects on S3 with quick retrieval times and cost effectiveness in mind. Which S3? I like provision IOPS, but I'm gonna take a YOLO on the one zone IA. Easily replaceable objects with quick retrieval times and cost effectiveness in mind. YOLO. Although your application customarily runs at 30% usage, you have identified a recurring usage spike greater than 9 between 8 p.m. and midnight daily. What is the most cost-effective way to scale your application? Reoccurring usage spike. I think that the most cost-effective way is to just fixed interval scale. If you know the manually reactive event-based scaling, sounds nice. But if it happens all the time, manually deploy reactive event-based scaling each night at 7:45. You only live once. You've been commissioned to develop a high availability application with the stateless web tier. All of them use a load balancer. All of them have a multi-AZ scaling group of EC2 spot instances, 3 of which demand primary running in tandem with the auto scaling group on EC2 spot instances, secondary, and multi-AZ deployment of RDS. What? Use a ELB multi-AZ deployment of auto scaling group of EC2 spot instances, primarily running in tandem with the auto scaling group of EC2 on demand instances, secondary, a multi-AZ. I don't like that. I like on demand to spot. On demand to spot, not spot to on demand. I'm just gonna say it's this. Following advice from a consultant. Following the advice from my consultant, you have configured your VPC to use dedicated hosting tenancy. Okay. A subsequent change to your application has rendered the performance gains from dedicated tenancy superfluous, and you would now like to recoup some of the greater costs. How would you revert to default? Create my for all your instances. Create a new VPC with default as the hosting tenancy attribute. Nothing is possible to move from dedicated tenancy to default tenancy. Create MIs of all your instances and use them to create new instances using default hosting. Use AWS CLI to modify instance placement attribute of each instance, the VPC tenancy attribute in the VPC. Create MIs of all your instances. Create a new VPC with default as the hosting tenancy attribute and use them to create new instances using default tenancy. Create MIs of all your instances and use them to create new instances using default hosting. I think you have to recreate the VPC. Maybe it's not possible. Your security manager has hired a security contractor to audit your app firewall implementation. When the consultant asks for login details for the firewall appliance, which of the following might you do? What? I mean, you can create a user. I would create a user. I think you can create user policies. User policy AWS. IAM gives you the tools to create and manage all types of IAM policy. Manage the policy inline to add permission IAM policy. Alright. I think that he needs a user. You have created a bespoke VPC. Oh, I can choose multiple. Okay. I don't like this answer, but I'm gonna have to do it. You have created a bespoke VPC that contains 2 web servers. These web servers must be publicly accessible by the internet and should also be highly resilient. Which of the following configurations should you consider? Okay. Oh Lord. Configure an instance within your VPC, create a route via the net associated with all the private subnets, create opportunity A record. Why? 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 Between your 2 web servers behind the ELB in different availability zones, configure routing A record to point the IP address of Elastic. Yeah. Set up an Elastic Load Balancer, place your 2 web servers behind the ELB in different availability zones. Good. Configure a route for the CNAME. Use public DNS address of an alias record. You're gonna have to do both of these. You're gonna have to do both of these. You're gonna have to have the Elastic Load Balancer. Okay, and then you have to configure a CNAME to the ELB, and then you have to configure an alias that points to each of the IP address. Whoa, 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 no. I'm tripping now. A CNAME? So it's definitely not a CNAME. The alias. I like this one too. Let's just try this. 44. Which of the following URL formats does S3 support in pointing to bucket, my new bucket? Oh shit. Oh, I fucking forgot this, dude. Which of the following? I get to pick 2? These are both the same. Am I fucking wrong? My new bucket dot AWS dot S3 dot very interestingly, there's only 2 that have a S3 dot AWS region. So based on that, I would have to go with this one, but also this sounds right too. Amazon AWS, and let me just see what it is. You are deploying a web app. You are maintaining separate sets of resources for your alpha, beta, and release environments. Oops. What's going on here? I'm developing a web application maintaining separate sets of resources for your alpha, beta, and release environments. Okay, sure. Each version runs on Amazon EC2 with elastic block storage volume. You use elastic load balancing to manage traffic and route Amazon Route 53 to manage your domain. What's the best way to check the health and status of all three groups of service simultaneously? That sounds cool. That doesn't sound cool, because CloudTrail doesn't care about that. Maintain an open console for each set of resources. Create a resource group. I like this. This sounds right. But CloudWatch... Yeah, move on. Your company has just purchased another company. As part of the merger, your team has instructed to cross-connect the corporate networks. You run all your confidential corporate services in a VPC and use Route 53 for your internal DNS. The merged company has all their confidential corporate services and internal DNS on-premise. After establishing a direct connect service between your VPC and their on-premise network, and confirming all the routing, firewalls, authentication, you find that while you can resolve names against their DNS, the services in the other company are unable to resolve names of your AWS services. What might be happening? They're not allowed to speak to our Route 53. You run all your confidential corporate services, VPC, and use Route 53 for your internal DNS. I need them to be able to AWS Route 53. Is an internet service, and the other company needs to do lookups and zone transfers via the internet, not direct connect link. I don't know about that. You cannot use DNS in this way. You need to merge the zones under the parent zone registered. I can't know. By design, the AWS DNS service does not respond to requests originating from outside of the VPC. Maybe. Route 53 is not an industry standard DNS service. The zone transfer... You can't, they would never say that. No. The computers are not configured properly. You need to add the IP address of the R53 private hosted zone resolver to nearest options of the IP stack. I think that might be the right thing, but at the same time, the computer's not configured properly. You need to add the IP address of the R53 private hosted zone resolver into the DNS options of the IP stack. No, I think this is it. When copying an API, which of the following types of information must be manually copied? User-defined tags? Select 3? What kind of fucking thing is this? Let's look at it though. Launch permissions, the bucket permissions. Maybe you meant select 2. You have been engaged by a company to design and lead a migration to an AWS environment. The team is concerned about the capabilities of the new environment, especially when it comes to avoiding bottlenecks. The design calls for about 20 instances, C3 2x large, pulling jobs message from an SQS. Network traffic per instance is estimated to be around 500 megabits per second. Ooh, that's a lot. At the beginning of each job, which network configuration should you plan on deploying? $20 instances. 500 megabits. 10 gigabit. Deploy placement videos aggregate burst traffic could be around. I don't know about that. What the fuck is this? Why is it leaking down the side? We can't have this. I need to clean. Activate EBS optimization on the instance to maximize network. No. Use a second network interface to separate SQS traffic for the storage. Design calls for 20 instances pulling job message from SQS network traffic. Spread the instances over multiple AZs to minimize the traffic concentration and maximize the fault tolerance. Choose a different instance type to better match the traffic demand. Yeah, that might be good too. You can do that too. I'm gonna do this for now because these are, you might be Amazon instance chart. What do they call C3 2x large? Wow. Alright, I got a text. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, C5. How are you supposed to memorize this? This doesn't tell you anything. Why would you have everything with a C appears to have us? What's the asterisk? Shit, I don't know what to do at this point. But it turns out that these are already like on by default. This sounds great. Spreading the instance over multiple AZs, I don't know about that. Choose a different instance type. I don't know at this point. You work for a busy real estate company and you need to protect your data stored on a stream from accidental deletion. Which of the following? Select two. Amazon Web Services offers 4 different levels of support, which you've got enterprise, business, free, and developer. Which of the following are resources you might use to help you master AWS services and prepare for... One, two, three, four, 5, and 6. You are reviewing change control requests, and you note that there is a change designed to reduce wasted CPU cycles by increasing the value of visibility. Whoa, what the fuck? You are reviewing change control requests, and you note that there... What if I'm doing this exam in my head? What does this mean? When you consumer instance polls for new, it will allow it to wait a certain time for a message to be available for closing connection. When a new message is added to the queue, it will be hidden for a fixed period. When a consumer instance polls for new work, the consumer will wait for a certain time. And when processing a message, the consumer instance can reset the message visibility. When processing a message... When coding a routine to upload to S3, you have the option of using either single part upload or multi-part. Which identify all the possible reasons below to use multi-part. That might be true. No. I like all these. You have been engaged by a company to design and lead the migration to an AWS environment. That's cool. An argument has broken out about how to meet future backup and archive requirements and how to transition. The security manager and CTO are concerned about backup continuity and the ability to continue to access old archives. The senior engineer is adamant that there is no way to retain the old backup solution in the AWS environment and that they will lose access to all their current archives. What information can you share that will satisfy both parties? there's no way to retain the old backup solution, and maybe you just gotta do it another way. Propose using AWS. Why is this fucking? Propose using AWS import-export service to import the contents of the backup and archive tapes into S3 Glacier to preserve them from. It's like 2. Preserve them in case they're required later. Meet with the management team. Explain that the senior engineer is correct. There is no mechanism for changing the existing backup archive solution as the AWS data centers are closed facilities. Meet with both parties and brief them on AWS storage gateway VTL solution. Explain that it can initially be installed on on-personal environment utilizing the existing enterprise backup product to start the transition without losing access to existing backup archive. I like that. Suggest that in order to maintain access to existing archives after transitioning, but a storage gateway solution could be commissioned in a partner data center using existing equipment. Suggest that during transition of second AWS storage VTL solution, propose the AWS import-export service to import the contents of the backup and archive tapes into S3 Glacier to preserve them. I don't even know if this is possible, so I'm just gonna click next. You manage a Ruby on Rails application that lives on a cluster of EC2 instances. Unpredictable. As a result, you're losing recently submitted requests from end users. You use auto scaling to deploy additional resources to handle load during spikes, but the new instances don't spin up fast enough to prevent existing application servers from freezing. Which of the following will provide the most cost-effective solution in preventing the loss of recently submitted requests? Decouple application components and keep the requests in queue until the extra auto-scaling instance is available. Increase the size of EC2 instances. Keep large EC2 on standby. Ask AWS support to preform the elastic load balancer. I like that. You are reviewing change control requests, and you note that there is a change designed to reduce costs by updating wait time seconds attribute. What does that mean? Wait time seconds attribute. When the consumer instance pulls for new work, the SQL service will allow it to wait a certain time for more messages to be available before closing the connection. That sounds right. When a new message is added to the SQS queue, it will be hidden. No, I know that's not true. When a consumer instance pulls for new work, the consumer instance will wait a certain time until it has a full workload before closing the connection. No, I think that means like wait before 20 minutes in. By updating the wait time seconds attribute, when a consumer instance pulls for new work, this will allow SQS service will allow it to wait a certain time for one or more messages to be available. How much wait before it closes? Okay. While processing a message, when a consumer instance receives a message, that message will be hidden in the queue. Nah. When processing a message, a consumer instance can amend the message visibility counter. No. While processing the message, a consumer instance can reset the message visibility, restarting preset. No. When a consumer instance pulls for new work, the consumer instance will wait a certain time until its full workload before closing. I like that one too. When it pulls for SQS, it will allow it to wait a certain time for one or more messages to be available. That's probably it. To save money, you quickly stored some data on the root volume of an EC2 instance and stopped it for the weekend. Oh boy, when you turn Monday and start your instance use, because your data's gone. Why? It's ephemeral block level storage. Data on the instance volume is lost in instance stop. That's funny. Your solutions architect working for an oil and gas company. They are moving their production environment to AWS and need a VPC into which to put that into. You have been asked to create a public subnet. You create a VPC with the subnet bearing the CIDR address range of which of the following steps should you take to make the subnet public? I need to see CIDR table. $24 gives you 256 from 0 to 255. That's good. Your solutions architect, you've been asked to create a public subnet. You create a VPC with the subnet bearing the CIDR address. Which of the following steps should you take to maintain this public subnet? Right click on subnet and select make public option. Attach internet gateway, create a route table. Create a route in the route table of the subnet allowing route out of the internet gateway. Attach a customer gateway. Create a route in the route table of the subnet allowing a route out of the customer gateway. I'm a solutions architect working for an oil and gas company. They're moving their production environment to AWS. And you get custom VPC to put this into. You have asked to create a public subnet. You create a VPC with the subnet bearing the CIDR. Oh, what do you have to do to make the subnet public? What I have to do to make the subnet public? To the VPC? Attach an IGW to the VPC and create a route to the IGW. There we go. I'm good with my answer. On which of the following does the AWS Trusted Advisor service offer advice? Sure, why not? It sounds good. Your AWS environment contains several on-demand EC2 instances dedicated to a project that has been canceled. Oh lord, your supervisor does not want to incur charges for these on-demand instances, but also does not want to lose the data just yet because there's a chance the project may be revived in the next few days. What should you do to minimize? Contact your support and put the instance in courtesy hold, stop the instance, terminate the instance, create MIs from the instances and put them in AWS Marketplace in the hope of recovering some of the costs. Anyone who answers this would fucking die. You can stop them, but you probably can't terminate them? I don't know. I don't believe in courtesy hold.
Let's jam it.
Now how are you? You wanna stop them maybe? Don't terminate them. To establish a successful site-to-site VPN connection from your on-premise network to AWS Virtual Private Cloud, which of the following what you need? Huh? To establish successful site-to-site VPN connection from your on-prem network to VP Cloud, which of the following might be combined and configured? A virtual private gateway, a NAT instance. Oof. I think one of these. You're reviewing change control requests and you note that there is a proposed change design to reduce errors due to S3 eventual consistency by updating delay second attribute. What does this mean? I hate these. When a consumer instance pulls for new work, the SQL service will allow it to wait a certain time for a message to be available before closing the connection. When processing a message, when the message will lose the counter by a fixed amount. When a consumer instance retrieves a I think it has to do with processing. Let's just finish it. Let's see how low it is. That's the same as like last time. By myself. Alright, this is the fun part. The part where I go over what I got wrong. Correct, incorrect. The number 2. What could be done to cause this? So, okay, let's repeat. You work for a construction company that has a production environment in AWS. The production environment consists of 3 identical web servers that are launched from the standard Amazon AMI using auto scaling. The web servers are launched to the same public subnet and belong to the same security group. They also sit behind the same ELB. You decide to do some testing. You launch a new instance. Knowingly, your 4th instance does not appear to have internet connectivity. What could be the cause of this? I said you need to update your route table, provide route. But you have not assigned elastic IP to the new instance. I didn't know you have to. It says what? It does not have internet connectivity. You have to assign elastic IPs to the new instances. 4. You have launched a NAT instance into a public subnet. You have configured all relevant security network routing policies to allow this NAT to function. However, EC2 instances in the private subnet still cannot communicate out to the internet. What troubleshooting steps should I take? Disable source destination checks on the NAT instance. Disable source destination checks on the NAT instance. Notepad. EC2 instances in private subnet need disable source dest check on NAT instance to speak to internet. Alright, that's a note I'm taking down. I want to go back to this 20 minutes. You work for a famous bakery who are deploying a hybrid cloud approach. Their legacy IBM AS400 servers will remain on-premise with their own data center. They need to be able to communicate the AWS environment over a site-to-site VPN connection. What do you need to establish the VPN connection? I don't know what ASN is. ASN. AWS. Oh, ASN. Bringing your own private ASN. You work for a famous bakery deploying a hybrid. Their legacy servers will remain on-premise with their own data center. However, they will need to be able to communicate to AWS environment over site-to-site VPN connection. What do you need to establish the VPN connection? Create an ASN for the virtual private gateway. Autonomous system number. What are the technical requirements for virtual interfaces to public AWS services, such as EC2 and Amazon S3? What is an autonomous ASN, and do I need one to use AWS Direct Connect? Autonomous system numbers are used to identify networks that present a clearly defined external routing policy to the internet. Autonomous system numbers are used to identify networks that present a clearly defined external routing policy to the internet. AWS Direct Connect requires an ASN to create a public or private virtual interface. You may use a public ASN which you own, or you can pick any private ASN numbers between. What? I will never understand that. For site-to-site VPN connection, set an ASN for the virtual private gateway. This is direct connect stuff. Oh, there's explanations on this one. The termination IP address on the AWS side is not at the gateway. It is defined as part of AWS VPN configuration process. Direct Connect should be a carrier, but is not a VPN itself. Okay. I work in the genomics industry and I process large amounts of genomic data using nightly elastic blah blah blah. So the job runs on 3 demand core nodes and 4 task nodes. The job is now taking longer than anticipated, and you have asked what do you store? I YOLO'd this one. The amount EFS is independent volume for your core nodes. You should reduce the input split size of map reduced job configured than just a number of simultaneous mapper tasks, so that more tasks can be processed at once. I didn't. That. How to reduce completion time EMR with 3 on-demand 4 nodes and 4 on-demand task nodes. Reduce the input split size in map reduce job config. Adjust number of simultaneous mapper tasks so that more tasks can be processed at once. Okay. You run an automobile restaurant company that is a popular online store on AWS. The application sits behind the autoscaling group and requires new instances of autoscaler group to identify their public and private IP addresses. How can I achieve this? Yeah. 14. You have been asked to deploy a clustered application on a small number of EC2 instances. The application must be placed across multiple AZs, have high speed, low latency communication between each of the nodes, and should also minimize the chance of underlying hardware failure. Which of the following options would provide a solution? I didn't know this one. Deploy the EC2 servers in spread placement group. For apps that have small number of critical instances that need to be separate. Launching this in a spread placement group reduces the risk of simultaneous failures that might occur. I need to copy this. Launching this instance to reduce the risk of simultaneous failures might occur when instances share the same underlying hardware. Spread placement groups provide access to distinct, and cluster means phone goes down, you fuck. Underlying hardware failure. Minimize the chance implies deploy EC2 servers and spread groups. That's all I need to write. Minimize the chance of underlying hardware failure means deploy servers in okay. Provides access to distinct hardware and are therefore suitable mixing instance types or launching instances over time. This may cause incorrect. Which of the following is not a feature of AWS orgs? AWS organizations cannot granular config of groups within a VPC. They're not VPC specific. Security groups VPC. They don't. A security access a virtual firewall, blah blah blah. They're not VPC specific, I think. Usually type security groups, AWS. Oh, what the fuck is this? Yeah, there's nothing. You define them at a different level. Amazon Elasticache can fulfill a number of roles. Choose operations from the following list which can be implemented. Elasticache can do pub sub, sorted sets, and in-mem data store. Not RDF. Redis offers fully managed Memcache and Redis service, although the name only suggests caching functionality. Redis service in particular can offer Elasticache. Alright, there we go. Okay. Dude, this fucking song sucks. Which native AWS service will act as a file system on S3 bucket? AWS storage gateway can act as a file system mounted on an S3 bucket. The storage gateway service is primarily used for attaching infrastructure located in data center or office to AWS storage infrastructure. The AWS documentation states that you can think of a file gateway as a file system mounted on S3. Amazon Elastic File System is a mountable file storage service for EC2, but has no connection to S3, which is object storage. Elastic Block Store EBS is a block level storage service for use with EC2, and again has no connection to S3. So you can't say block store or file system. They're both EC2 related. What? Wow, that's how you would think about. EFS and EBS are EC2 storage solutions, not S3 solutions. That's good. What data formats are used? Alright, that's good enough. Which AWS service allows you to run? Wow. Content length. Content MD5. XAMZ storage class and XAMZ meta are valid S3 request headers. S3 request headers. Request headers provide line control of how the object will be handled and stored by S3. Oh, I got this wrong? Storing web session? DDB use case. Storing JSON data, blob data, and storing web session data. Which of the following services should you implement in multiple availability zones? Can you bring notes to AWS exam? All right, Rusty. Which of the following services would you implement a multiple availability zones in order to achieve high availability? RDS and EC2, S3, SQS, and DynamoDB are already built on fault-tolerant fashion. You do not need to provision these services on multiple, therefore correct answer RDS and EC2. Okay. How did I get this wrong? By default, all instances are monitored by CloudWatch using the default settings. How many minutes elapsed? I didn't know that. I need to write this down. CloudWatch metrics. 5 minutes. Detailed. 1 minute. Regular. Alright. Using the default settings, metrics are sent every 5 minutes to CloudWatch. Using the detail settings, metrics are sent every 1 minute. Oh, that's how it works. You receive a provision throughput exception error. However, DynamoDB metrics show that your table or index has not been operating the maximum provision throughput. What could be the error? Well, you got an error because one of the partitions is done. Transfer error is only a warning. It's not. The error is caused by excess traffic by local. No. Assumption of provision throughput units and I/O bottlenecks are not an average. Simple average over the table. Consumption is measured in terms of load on each individual partition, as well as load on each local and global secondary index. You need to restrict access to the bucket. What do you do? ACLs and bucket policies. With EBS, I can. Apparently, you can create encrypted volumes from snapshots and create encrypted snapshot from. You cannot create. I'll have to write this down. EBS. You cannot create unencrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot or volume, or encrypt an existing volume. You cannot create an encrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot or encrypt an existing volume. You cannot create an encrypted volume from an encrypted snapshot or whatever. This is the one that's like, you'll have to request a copy. It is important to demonstrate to management and auditors that commercial and security obligations are being met and that costs will be contained or reduced. So you want what is this called? File storage. Gateway cached and file gateway volumes retain a copy of frequently accessed data sets locally. That's nice. Cache volumes offer substantial cost savings on primary storage and minimize the need to scale your storage on-prems. Note that AWS recently changed the naming. You should know both forms for the exam. Gateway cached and file gateways. Gateway cached and file gateways. File gateway is a configuration of AWS storage gateway service that provides your applications a file interface to seamlessly store files as objects. What the fuck is gateway cache? Low latency. Gateway, cache, storage. A volume gateway? Volume gateway? Gateway cached and file gateway volumes. A volume gateway provides cloud back storage volumes that you can mount as internet small, blah 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 blah, cache volumes. Did they change the name to volume gateway? Gateway cached is the same as volume gateway. Gateway cached and file gateway volumes retain a copy of frequently accessed data subsets locally. Cache volumes offer. Oh. File gateway. Gateway cached. Gateway cache implies volume gateway. Tape gateway. Gateway cache versus volume gateway. Volume storage. I'm not gonna look this up, I should just move on. They get retained for 14 days. I forgot what the other one was. Risk responses that you are not guaranteed. What in what conditions? Oh lord. Oh lord, AWS sends a notification and then it says AWS sends a notification but you do not receive it. I didn't think it's possible. Send a notification to me, you receive it. Wait, did not shut it down? Notification of spot termination. That's hard, dude. I don't know if I'd remember that. Spot instance. Termination can happen unexpectedly. Information can forced shutdown. Information can forced shutdown scenarios. 1. AWS notifies 120 systems before and then two. AWS notifies 120 seconds, but you don't receive within 120 seconds. AWS can send 120 second notifies 120 seconds before shutdown, but do not action the shutdown. That's really weird. AWS can notify 120 seconds before shutdown, but the normal lease is expired. But normal lease expired before the forced shutdown. Those are all scenarios. I don't like those. I don't like this question at all. You're a solutions architect working for a cosmetics company. Your company has busy Magneto. This is the online website with a large MySQL. We're having Black Friday sale at the end of the week and have reviewed the performance for the last sale. You expect to start running very slowly during a peak load. You investigate, determine that the database was struggling to keep up the reads. How can you successfully scale? Select 2. What is this running on? MySQL? Why not? Migrate the database from MySQL Aurora for better performance and update the connection string Magneto. That's good too. Adding a read replica on its own won't solve your problem. You would need to alter the code for Magneto to use the read replica, which was not in the offered options. That's why. Okay. RDS, MySQL. What is this? What do you need this? Peak load. Slow peak load. Adding a read replica will solve a problem. You need to alter the code of Magneto. Magneto customers. Magneto customers cannot add an RDS because they can't add read replicas to their MySQL DB are DBs because to increase the RDS readability, you gotta use elastic cache or migrate DB from MySQL to Aurora. Oh my god, Aurora must be amazing. Read traffic. You have a MySQL database running on EC2 instance and private subnet. You can connect via SSH, but you're not able to apply the updates. Can't. What is this? EC2 updates. Enable. Not working. Software updates not working. To disable source destination checks on the NAT instance. This one was rough because I didn't know if you want to make AMIs versus running that. There are 3 key aspects: RTO, RPO, and cost. All 3 must be balanced and meet objectives for design to be considered acceptable. The cost. You can't save the answer to something like this. This has to be intuitive. Like, building templates of the critical web servers, blah blah, blah as AMIs. That's very a little consuming, but it will come up faster than something like storing and maintaining CloudFormation stack or CloudFormation templates. Incorrect. Do you have a database style application that frequently has multiple reads and writes across the dataset? Which of the following AWS storage services are capable of hosting? Oh, you have an application. You would either use EBS or EFS. S3 is object storage, and applications, and Glacius for data archiving. For EFS and EBS for applications, EC2, it's EC2 storage, not you need to store some easily replaceable objects in S3. One zone IA is replace RRS as the recommended storage for what you want cheaper. Has the same durability but less availability. The same durability. One zone IA has replaced RS as recommended storage for when you want cheaper storage for infrequent access objects. It has the same durability but less availability. Plus there can be cost implications if you use it frequently. There's no such thing as S3 provision ops. There is no such thing as S3 provision IOPS. I like that. S3 one zone IA is greater than S3 RRS for cheap infrequent access storage. Same durability but less avail. I don't know that's right. What's cost effective? I chose this one because it used on-demand into auto-scaling spot instances. Oh, for DynamoDB? I didn't see DynamoDB and RDS. Like, I didn't see that was a difference. This makes a big difference because this is highly available. RDS is not highly available. You gotta fucking put it on all the zones yourself. With proper scripting and scaling policies, the on-demand instances behind the spot instances will deliver the most cost-effective solution. Because the on-demand will only spin up if the spot instances are not available. DynamoDB is a regional service. There is no need to explicitly create AZ deployment. That's true. I need to remember that. High availability app. Stateless web tier. Use DDB. Use spot instances primary and on-demand instances secondary. Because that's what they say. I'm gonna write that down. How would you revert the default hosting tenancy? I said I create AMIs of all my instances, create a new VPC with default as a hosting tenancy attribute, and use them to create new instances using default tenancy. But it says use the CLI to modify the instance placement attribute of each instance of the VPC tenancy attribute of the VPC. I didn't know it's possible. VPC is set to dedicated hosting, can be changed back to default hosting via CLI, SDK, or API. Note that this will not change hosting settings for existing instances, only future ones. Existing instances can be changed via CLI, SDK, or API, but need to be in a stop state to do so. It says here, how do you revert to default hosting? Revert to default hosting. VPC to use default hosting tenancy versus from dedicated hosting tenancy. How do you revert? Use AWS CLI to modify the instance placement attribute of each instance and the VPC tenancy attribute of the VPC. Because why? A VP set to dedicated hosting can be changed back to default hosting via CLI. I like this whole thing. I'm gonna copy it. You gotta use the CLI. You can change it from dedicating back to default via the CLI, SDK, or API. Let me see this link. Switch the tenancy of your VPC from dedicated to default. Amazon EC2 now allows customers to switch the tenancy of his existing VPC from dedicated to default instantly. By using the AWS CLI, dedicated tenancy ensures all EC2 instances that are launched on the VPC run on hardware that is dedicated to a single customer. All these customers who want to run protected. Okay. Security manager, hire a security contractor, audit my firewall. I like how I got these right. So funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, you have created Biscope. Okay, these web servers must be publicly accessible to the internet and should be highly resilient. I said do an ELB and place 2 web servers behind the ELB in different AZs. Configure the route A record to point to this load balancer. And then I said assign each one with elastic IP. Configure each instance for EC2 instance public internet access. Assign elastic IP. It says make a CNAME, a canonical name to use the public DNS address of the elastic load balancer. Let's see what it says. You have the option of using ELB or multiple elastic IP addresses and configuring DNS failover with health checks using Route 53. You cannot configure a Route 53 A record that points to ELB, and you can't use a NAT as a makeshift load balancer. Using elastic load balancer or multiple elastic IP addresses and configuring DNS failover with health checks using Route 53, you cannot configure Route 53 A record that points to ELB. I gotta learn that because I don't know. I got this wrong. Valid S3 URL formats. Can't even copy it. We got HTTP my bucket dot s3-aws region dot amazonaws.com, and you got HTTP s3 aws region amazonaws.com. So they're both the same domain. My bucket. Okay, that's good to remember. They'll have the same like domain, except the ones like subdomain routing to, they're probably aliases. You're developing a web app and you're maintaining separate sets of resources for your alpha, beta, and release environments. Each version runs a EC2 AWS volume. You use Elastic Load Balancer to manage traffic, and Amazon Route 53 manage your domain. What is the best way to check the health and status? Create a resource group. With a resource group tool, you use a single page view to manage your resources. I'm gonna write that down. Incorrect. We bought another company. We're doing a merger. One company has internal DNS on premise and the other one has, and I said the computers are not configured. You need to add IP address to the 53 resolver. But then it says, no, by design, AWS DNS service does not respond to requests originating from outside of the VPC. It says, AWS DNS service does not respond to requests originating outside the VPC. That's very important. Maybe I should put some stars in front of it. Okay. Route 53 has a security feature that prevents internal DNS from being read by external sources. To work around is to create an EC2 hosted DNS instance. To create an EC2 hosted DNS instance that does zone transfers from the internal DNS and allows itself to be queried by external servers. What? It's not that they don't have. You cannot have an on-prem DNS hit a R53 private hosted zone resolver. You need to have an EC2 hosted DNS instance that does zone transfers from internal DNS, allowing itself to, yeah, I don't need to write that. That's a crazy one. Oh my god, launch permission, this. When considering network traffic, you need to understand the difference between storage traffic and general network traffic and the ways to address each. The 10 gigabytes is a red herring in that the 500 megabits only occurs for short intervals, and therefore your sustained throughput is not 10 gigabits per second. Whenever possible, the simple solutions such as spreading the load out rather than expensive high-tech solutions. Spread EC2 instances over multiple AZs to minimize the traffic concentration and maximize fault tolerance. So you've got 20 instances. Alright, whatever. You've got 20 instances at 500 megabits per second at the beginning and end of each job. Which network config should I use? Oh boy. Work for a busy real estate company. You need to protect your data stored on S3 from accidental deletion. Always. What'd I get wrong here? I can only pick 3? Oh, fuck. Amazon support levels. Developer, business, enterprise. The correct answer is enterprise business developer plus the basic free level. Remember that the free tier is a billing rebate. Free tier is a billing rebate. Not an account or support level. No. I'm done, but I'm reviewing the questions.
You might ever reply to them.
You're reviewing change control requests and you note that there's a change designed to reduce wasted CPU cycles by increasing the value of visibility timeout attribute. What does this mean? When a consumer instance receives a message, that message will be hidden from the other consumer instances for a fixed period. From other. When a new message is added to SQS queue, it will be, I don't understand. Forward timing of SQS process can significantly impact the cost effectiveness of a solution. Oh boy. Visibility timeout implies when consumer retrieves a message, said message is hidden from other consumers for a fixed period. When coding a routine to upload to S3, you have the option of using either single part upload or multi-part upload. Identify all the possible reasons below to use multi-part. improve throughput, recovery from network issues, pause and resume, begin to upload before you know, upload without knowing final object size. What information can you share that will satisfy both parties? An argument is broken out how to meet future backup and archive requirements and how to transition. The security manager and CTO are concerned about backup continuity and ability to continue to access old archives. The senior engineer is adamant there is no way to retain the old backup solution in the AWS environment. Wait up. I'm doing the exam. Did you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Meet with both parties and brief them. Yeah, I got a lot wrong. Meet with both parties and brief them on the AWS storage gateway detail solution. Explain that can initially be installed on-prem. I thought I selected that. Oh yeah, select 2. Okay. So the other right answer is suggest that during transition a second AWS storage VTL solution can be commissioned on the customer's new VPC and integrated with existing VPS. At the same time, existing enterprise backup solution could be used to perform take copies to migrate the archive. I don't like this. Any migration project needs to consider how to manage legacy data and data formats.
True.
Any migration project needs to consider how to turn this down. Any migration project needs to consider how to manage legacy data and data formats. This includes backups to archives, blah blah. Third-party archive service is viable, but would be an ongoing expense. Storage gateway can be used to efficiently move data onto AWS. Whole tapes could either be restored to the storage gateway volume or migrated to virtual tapes using AWS. Inside AWS using tape gateway. Meet with both parties and brief them on the AWS storage gateway VTL solution. Explain that it can be initially be installed in the on-prem environment utilizing existing enterprise backup product to start the transition without losing access to the existing backups. That makes sense. Over the duration of migration, most of all the backups will be replaced by the new virtual tapes. But during the transition, a second one can be commissioned in the customer's new VPC and integrated in existing VTS. At the same time, the existing enterprise backup solution can be used to perform tape-to-tape copies. I would not guess that. Moving on. You manage a Ruby on Rails application that lives on a cluster of EC2 instances. Your website occasionally experiences brief, strong, and entirely unpredictable spikes in traffic. As a result, you're losing recently submitted requests. Use a queue. Okay. You manage a Ruby on Rails application that lives on a cluster of EC2 instances. Your website occasionally experiences brief. Blah, blah, blah. As a result, you lose blah blah blah. You use auto scaling to deploy additional resources to handle the load during spikes, but the new instances don't spin up fast enough. The explanation is basically a repeat of the question. Okay. You're reviewing change control requests. Wait time seconds. Wait time seconds.
What does this mean?
Wait time seconds. when consumer instance pulls for new work, SQS service allow it to wait a certain time for one or more messages to be available before closing connection. I got my visibility timeout question wrong from last night, I think. It was like worded differently. Because there's a setting on these queues called visibility timeout, and I thought it meant like it's invisible, like the consumer won't be able to get it.
What was it? That one like 12 hours? The first one?
No,
Somebody asked that?
I don't know what that one was. I don't remember.
Because there was a question about the visibility of data, and it was like 14 days, but that was how long it stays.
Yeah.
And it was 12 hours actual.
Was yeah, 12
how long
hours
it
for
stays
what? The visibility?
How long it remains visible? Yeah.
I don't remember. But visibility timeout's different. It's when the consumer wants something on, it gets the message and then it makes it invisible for the other consumers for a fixed period. And I always thought it was like no consumer can get it, or whatever.
So the one consumer always gets to see it visible. I don't know. To save money. You got this one right.
To save money, you quickly store some data on a root volume. Yeah, I know this. The most likely answer EC2 instance was backed by instance store volume. Instance store volumes are ephemeral, meaning they only exist in conjunction, blah, blah, blah. You're a solutions architect working for an oil and gas company. They are moving their production environment to AWS and need a custom VPC into which to put it. They've been asked to create a public subnet. You create the VPC with the subnet bearing a CIDR address. Which of the following steps should you take to make them public? Attach a VPC, a gateway, internet gateway to the VPC, and then create a route. That's what I said. The correct answer is
yeah, that's true.
On which of the following does the AWS Trusted Advisor service offer? And I said it's going to be for MFA and security groups, nothing that's like application based. The correct answers are whether there's MFA configure on the root account and advice on security groups. Okay. Your AWS environment contains several on-demand EC2 instances dedicated to the project that have just been canceled. What do? You stop them. Simply stopping instance will eliminate charges. To establish a successful site-to-site VPN connection from your on-premise network to the AWS Virtual Private Cloud, which of the following might be combined and configured? I can select 4. I said a a virtual private gateway, a customer gateway, a private subnet in your VPC, and a NAT instance. But they wanted an on-premise customer gateway, which I don't know what that is, a virtual private gateway, a VPC with hardware VPN access. That's oof. And a private.
Which you got
for site to site. It says here there are a number of ways to set up a VPN based on the options provided. AWS has a standard solution that makes a VPC with. I'm gonna copy and paste that. Set up a VPN based on the options provided. AWS has a standard solution that makes use of a VPC. AWS VPN how to. AWS has a standard solution that makes use of VPC with a private subnet, hardware VPN access, and a VPG, and an on-prem customer gateway. Okay, I'm gonna try to remember that. You need a hardware VPN. What's up?
The course content on the site, you're never gonna do that, right?
No, I'm not gonna do it.
If you go to that,
I need an on-prem customer gateway, a VPC with hardware VPN access, a virtual private gateway,
with hardware VPN access, on-premise customer gateway,
and a private subnet.
Private gateway and a private subnet. So private subnet in your VPC.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I mean, just I don't know, man.
I'm trying to like make inferences. Like I'm trying to figure out like, is a virtual customer gateway even a real thing? Like in this case, it might not even be a real thing.
The word customer, like I don't know. I don't work in this environment, so I don't know if something's called customer gateway.
An on-premise customer gateway, a virtual private gateway, a VPC with I would understand you need a private subnet of the VPC and a virtual private gateway, from my experience. Then I gotta remember that I need hardware VPN access VPC and on-premise on-premise customer gateway. Good luck with that. You were reviewing what's delay seconds. I got that wrong. Delay seconds. SQS. Delay seconds. You're reviewing. What does it mean? I thought it was when a message is added to the SQS queue, it will be hidden from customer instances for a fixed period of time. Oh no, I thought it was when you're processing stuff. It will delay it before it processes. But the right answer is
The one that sounds right.
when new messages added, it's hidden from consumer instances for a fixed period. Alright, so I used to think that visibility timeout was delay seconds. That's what I thought back in a few days ago. That's not the case.
But
The case is delay seconds is what keeps everybody from being able to see it. I thought delay seconds would mean like delay of processing. Fix a pound of time, but I gotta remember delay seconds means all consumers can't grab it. Basically, it's pretty much hidden. Visibility timeout is it doesn't let other people grab it after one guy's already grabbed it. 4 times.
what the one he chose, like it just
I got
what it meant.
like the same score as yesterday.